Hello everyone, Pastor Stump here with another reflection on the Stillspeaking Daily Devotional today. I'm here in what we call our Parents Lounge at Zion Blue Mountain United Church of Christ. We actually have children very much incorporated into our worship as far as being welcome into our sanctuary at any age and in the emotional state they are. But thought this would be a good room because it is here and available for use. We're also, once we all get through this coronavirus crisis, we are working on plans to modify a much larger portion of our sanctuary into what I call a playground area for our children to be a part of worship and actively there while still being cared for in ways that meet their needs and are very comfortable to them. But I'm here in this room because it made me think of tears. There's a lot of joy that takes place in this room, but this is where babies cry sometimes, and children cry as well. And in fact, some churches have rooms that they call crying rooms. And it really made me realize we cry for all sorts of different reasons. Babies, we cry when we're babies at a very early on because we're hungry, or because we don't feel well, or because we need to be held, or we're thirsty, or whatever it may be. And we don't know a way to say anything, but we know what we feel, and that comes out physically in our tears. That's often the case in our life. Tears come out of me quite a bit, probably more than most folks I know, to be honest, because there are many times where I don't know what to say, but I feel it, and the feelings come out in the form of tears. And those feelings, as we read today, and those tears, being a physical form of those feelings, are seeds for something else. They are seeds for joy because they remind us that joy will come. They remind us that there is hope and that life will change and we'll be transformed by the sorrow we're in. We may be brought closer to God. We may be brought through to a better thing. We may experience grief for a long time, but we will change through it. There's grief in this world that I can't explain, and I won't begin to try to. I know, as we read today, that God does not cause us to suffer, but can with us when we're willing, use these tears, this sorrow, to plant seeds for people to learn or to grow from. It's so very hard to see that at times, but it's true. Maybe even people around us will see that, and they'll plant seeds of hope or action in their lives as well. I stood this morning on the porch of house in an area nearby here and was delivering an emergency food delivery to someone who's under quarantine. They stood an appropriate distance away from me. Had never met this person before, though I knew of them, and they wanted so bad to give me a hug for bringing this food by, and I wanted so bad to give them a hug back, and we couldn't do that, though we had never met before. And then she described to me how in her travels to this area where she grew up from across the country, she traveled by bus. And that's a difficult journey if you've ever traveled by bus. And in the midst of all that, somehow some things got lost or maybe stolen in her luggage or with her luggage. And she's missing some things she needs to help her breathing. And it's just a tough time for her right now. And she began to cry and asked me simply for my prayers, which of course I offered because there's nothing that I can do. And then I began to cry, and there we stood 6 feet or more from each other, having never met, and crying in that moment together because of what we felt. And I believe seeds were planted between us. It made me realize that there are people, as I'm realizing now and even helping in another situation, while I'm worried about how I'm going to shelter in place, there are people with much bigger worries than that. People worried about their medicine or their medical equipment. People without the shelter to stay in place with. It's another thing we're working on today here in this church with helping someone with. And so I want you to know that it's okay to cry. I want you to know that it's okay to lament, to feel those things, but to know that those are seeds. Those are seeds to move us to a new place. We put them in the ground, and we let God do their work, and it happens. And things grow from that because of God's work, not because of ours. Things grow and change in our hearts and in our lives. So, friends, just stay the course now. Listen to the authorities. Stay in your homes. And I'm going to talk a little more about that with our sermon tonight for the Wednesday evening service. Stay in place where you can. If you need to travel for work or do things, please do so very carefully. And take the time to feel this and to show those feelings and to maintain a balance between the feelings and the action of taking care of them as well. So we'll see you next time we do this, hopefully tomorrow. And I hope you are well and continuing to create hope in the world.